It was what?
So low, it was closed, there were reservations, and then there was that.
Oh,
And I think that they just didn't want them in that hole.
yeah. Honestly, it was because there was a lot of people that made reservations and then
And you
didn't,
got the
and didn't.
the clock's correct.
And didn't.
You pick a work order?
Bigger blocks.
Oh, a new one,
Right.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I get a text, and then the maintenance guy gets called, because he couldn't even, the new maintenance guy,
Soon?
who we.
Okay. I call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. The purpose of this work session is to receive operational reports from the administration. All our board members are present. And we'll begin with Jonathan Balls with the Capital Improvement Program projects. Jonathan, is this early to give us this? It seems like it's early.
It,
Is the summer project?
so
Just a recap. of-
this is the recap.
Okay, not
It
the new
is,
one. Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
It does seem early to me, but I'll be more, anyway, it'll be good. So again, I didn't get it in front of the packet, forgive me, but we have screens here. Again, in addition to carpet, lighting, these are some of the major projects. So we did some little projects as well. Alameda bathrooms in the lower part there. Again, new tile, new fixtures, new backboard there, so forth. Again, kind of during that process, the tile done and just setting the sinks there. Anyway, and that's a finished product kind of to compared to that first one. Just to update the bathrooms, keep them fresh and new there.
Did any of these new ones get vandalized? Do you know?
Excellent question.
I just wondered.
I would assume that
If it happened in any of the.
We
new-
we didn't really have many reports from the middle schools. And
Yes.
in fact, Alameda went just a little bit later in opening this new bathroom.
correct.
So,
Oh.
and I think there was a lot of pride in ownership, if you will. So
Okay.
we did not see the vandalism in our middle schools
In the
as
new
much.
ones, okay. Thank you.
Again, new flooring there for Hawthorne as well, so you can kind of see that during the process there. Kind of a checkerboard pattern that works really well.
School colors.
School colors, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So again, there's the finished product there. Again, at Hawthorne, this is outside for the bleachers and lighting project. Again, this is to kind of ramp up this outdoor facility for Pocatello High School. Again, that's pouring the pad for the bleachers. This is actually, I left my note there. I'm pretty sure that is 10 by 10, 6 feet deep. That concrete slab is 2 feet. And then all of that, the sonotube obviously would filled with cement, and for the lighting, the light poles. So very, very deep structure there. It's actually sitting on bedrock underneath that. Again, that's kind of what that looks, and then the light pole would sit on top of that. You can just see how big that is. Again, there's a picture of the finished product with the bleachers, the press box at the top, and then a light pole on that far right-hand side. Okay, so this is the press box up at Highland. You kind of see where that's going. They're kind of digging the footings there. Again, kind of building up it. This is a CMU block, masonry block structure. Again, it'll be two stories there. Concessions and bathrooms on the basement, and then kind of that's again where the press box and the coaches will be on that second floor. I will say that this one is still ongoing. They do now have the metal trusses. The metal roof should have hit town in coils on Friday and should be installed shortly. This is one of those that is delayed, and kind of working with the contractor there to get this done quickly. This is the home education, home ec room at Irving, kind of during that process. Almost completed there, and then here's a couple views of that home ec room there at Irving. There's another good view there. Staying at Irving, so again, this is removing the track and the rock wall, putting in a walking track, expanding that football field so that it could, expanding the field so that it could be used for soccer as well. So that's the demolition of that rock wall. More of that on that rock wall. The wall is now gone, kind of putting up, again, a good footer, cement footer, and a little stub wall there that the chain link fence will sit upon. And now you can kind of see in the back, at least all the cement work is done in that back section of the fence. Again, the river is off to the right here where that fence is going, but then they ripped up the asphalt, and that was underneath the asphalt. And that's again, prior to my employment here, I built a track, and I can kind of see how that track was kind of failing there, and that's one of the other reason we needed to take that out. But again, expanding that field, the grass would be with those those lanes, and then the walking track would probably be lane 6 and 7, or 5 and 6, or 7 and 8, depending on the outside. You can see the new fence on that left-hand side. Again, the chain link fence on top of that cement stub wall. And there's kind of a finished look at Irving. Okay, so the other part, this was kind of and I called it the Unplanned Wilcox Vanishing pipe. That is actually a drain pipe. You see that open, something, we don't know what, ate through that pipe. Started in the kitchen. We found it in the kitchen.
That's cast iron.
It's cast iron.
Yeah, so I don't know what would do that.
It was, and we didn't notice it was, we were replacing the grease traps as we've done systematically through several years, and replacing that grease trap, realized, wow, the bottom of this pipe is gone. And so we really needed to replace that. Obviously, we find something, we need to replace it, but it was extensive. You'll see the kitchen in the upper right corner. Again, looking for a good piece of pipe. They had to dig, a lot of jackhammer, cutting the saw, tile, cutting that with a tile saw, jackhammering, digging it out. Went all the way into the hallway underneath that wall until we found solid pipe. So that's in the hallway there, kind of did a square of the carpet until we could find solid pipe. Obviously replaced the pipe to that point. And then
Makes you wonder what went in the kids' tummies.
again, it was just a drain pipe. It wasn't sewer. There wasn't any, and there wasn't any indication that this was happening. I think it was just probably, percolating down through that rock, possibly. I just.
But the missing part was turned down.
Missing part was turned down.
So
Yes.
At
The bottom of it,
acid.
some sort of acid.
Yep.
And obviously not recent. It was not recent. I mean, this does not happen overnight. And so, because we asked our maintenance crew, and they didn't know as well. But the crew, again, it was unplanned. Had to obviously spend a little bit of effort in some dollars, material costs, and personnel costs to get that. But again, there's that same line. The picture was taken with learners on the sides, and so we had to push that out. Those are 2 employees there, and so, but they had matching tile and put it back, so that turned out pretty good. But again, those type of things as well kind of come up. Luckily, we found it during the summer, and it wasn't anything there, anything during school. Okay, now a few updates on Pocatello High School remodel. This is one of the classrooms there, cabinetry going on in both sides. Point out that little box right there is actually a chair lift that you could, and I believe, correct me, Superintendent Howell, but that is the old entrance into the into the pit auditorium area.
The east side. The east side.
East going west.
Yeah, and that's what I even had a conversation today, that one of the great things by remodeling this is making this building ADA compliant. And so that is just phenomenal. Again, this chair lift is one way that as you put the wheelchair or individual in that and can get up into that phase, but then also there is an elevator there as well that can go up and down. There's a picture of that. Again, you can see underneath where there used to be the wall there. Again, some great, here's, you get the old building on the left, new building on the right, kind of a corridor here. It will be this exposed industrial look at the top, but it's very cool because of that lighting. Again, there's no lights on in there, and it's so light and bright. So I think it'll be, so that's the other really neat thing here is we're creating a lot of cool, I mean, up to speed or whatever you'd call it, some neat spaces for the learners. Again, here's one that the new and the old there, that you kind of still get some of that architecture there. Again, another great space. Obviously, the windows have coverings over them as they're painting. You see that ceiling is just half painted there. But in another great space that there'll be some benches and tables around there. Obviously, this is the second floor. Just creating some great spaces for the learners that they'll enjoy, so, and enhance their educational experience, I'm sure. It's fine.
So when do we get to take a tour?
Whenever you'd like. I think it'd probably be good. Whenever
So
you
do
think.
want to talk about time for completion, the latest information we have?
Yes, yep, I was.
That was a nice segue, but,
Yeah,
I would like to go through previous to that. We could certainly arrange for public notice of the quorum of a board, no activity or action, just for a tour, if you'd like to do that before the next month passes.
Correct.
I'll let you talk about time.
Because, yes, and as you know, we've, again, it is delayed, and there's no excuses. Obviously, if we could change it, we definitely would, working with them to go as fast as we can. Yet since I've come on, it's like, yes, I want it done, but almost even more importantly, I want it to last another 100 years. And so I don't want to make them, cut corners, and they won't. We will, Alan and the crew there, making sure it's done perfect. But the latest information we got, the date was November 17th. And that's what we just got, it was last week, end of last week. And initially, you read in the Idaho State Journal that we thought it was going to be the end of October, but now it's November 17th.
Give us one more thing to be thankful for.
That is true, too. I would, again, I'm not going to bet my job on that November 17th date, but at least we haven't had a firm date, a calendar date for a long time. And so anyway, so in light of that, again, they're painting, but if you'd like a tour ahead of time, I think that could be arranged.
I just want to say that I've had several people who live in that general is it on?
It is on.
Several people who live in that general area have just said, I am so pleased with the way it looks.
Correct.
And they're just really, I think almost surprised that it looks as good as it does,
Correct.
so.
Yeah.
Anyway, it has felt good. They felt that the board had made a good choice in terms of the way to move forward.
Good, good,
And,
yeah.
and driving by it, you know, it just all looks like it fits together, so.
Correct. I think it'll be definitely a treasure for the community, even above the historical piece there as well. So I think it'll be really good.
I even had an older lady that lives out north of town say, I've been so impressed, I went and bought me a Pokey t-shirt.
Oh,
She said, I went and bought me a Pokey t-shirt.
so did it? So yeah, the question is what mascot did it have on it? You know, so.
Well,
They can have both.
Yeah. So because we'll continue, I wanted to finish off some things that are done. This is the pit floor. There's the new Pocatello, one of the Pocatello Thunder logo there. Again, kind of the finished floor there. And there's one even taken from the cameras today that had some signs there. The Indian head removed there. I will mention before we go on to the last piece is that we still have the palace. This pit took a little bit longer. They weren't able to get to the palace to get it done before the start of our fall sports. But working with administration and the team here, identified the end last week in October. There's a break between volleyball and the start of girls basketball that the palace is scheduled to kind of have the Indian head and the Indian names removed there. So that's the plan right now. So still a little work to do. The other kind of I think a highlight of the Pokey remodel is that South Commons area is what, I don't know if there's a better term, Superintendent, called Commons?
Yeah.
The
Courtyard.
courtyard Commons area, again, between the two buildings. But you can kind of see, there's the base there, you see the kind of the paint, the orange paint markings where you'll see, that's not a good one, but here's the finished one. That orange paint was actually these little kidney bean shaped islands that the learners can sit on. Obviously you see the trees there. I almost could have got one from the top, but that's coming off of those, the stairs there. But it's just a really nice, and was it you, Superintendent, that got that comment that it almost feels, was it you that got that comment? Do you want me to share that? Because I thought that was way cool.
The comment was the finished spaces here in the outdoors, and even with, that glass in the background, it looked like a real modern day college campus, essentially, is what someone told me. They were, it was actually someone who was doing part of what do you call that? Oh, the review, when we have a review for curriculum and so forth. And said he travels a lot in the state and in other states, and was just very impressed by the architecture, blending the old and the new, and then this courtyard kind of tying it all together. And he was very, very impressed.
You know, I've thought about that, how we kind of tried to use that in our motto when we promoted this, was a blend of bringing the old and the new together. And people thought you could never do it, and yet you look at it and it's beautiful, and I think the community is very pleased. I was going to ask, on the east side of the walkway, are they putting grass in there? I know they've put
Yes.
sidewalks, but are they putting grass?
Yes, and absolutely, that is unfortunately one of those things that will not be completed this fall. And so it will be a springtime to get in there as soon as we can. And, that there's been a lot of equipment on that, so they're going to have to bring in some fill because that's almost solid as a rock now. So they'll bring in some topsoil. And yes, they'll definitely be greenscape, and maybe even something like this on the other side as well.
I was just hoping for I know we wanted more green, when we took all
Absolutely.
that concrete out, we wanted more green, but I know it's pretty packed.
Now we've
in.
got snow.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, and again, I can't, again, it takes a lot of crew. Even over the summer, we get bus drivers, we get, 9-month employees that continue to work for us in painting and different, again, maintenance operation, transportation, food service. They do a great job. So I just wanted to, get a thank you to them. So,
Okay.
any questions? Anything on that? And yes, I will be coming probably later on and talk about next year's. So
Good.
we'll finish up a few projects this year and start the next cycle.
Who's on the SIP committee here?
I was, I don't think I am this year, though. I mean, for this next year.
Ah,
I don't know.
Work on that later.
I thought you were gonna go back on there.
Oh, well, all right, here I will.
Okay.
And now we're gonna talk about the proposed Esra 3 budget. Are you going to join him, Dr. Howell?
I'll just add some,
Okay.
I'll contribute and maybe fill in the blanks and just help out along the way. But I think Mr. Balls has a good handle on it.
Correct. I was just trying to pull it up there. I can't zoom in very well, but this one was included in your packet. Well, it's just, I can't, I have it. I just can't get that drop-down box to zoom in there. I just was going right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, let's try that. That way everybody's can see. Oh, perfect. Okay. So again, we have these American ARP or ESSER 3 funds that we have to spend. Again, you approved the plan, kind of the overarching plan at the last board meeting, and now this is kind of to put some tentative numbers in that plan. Again, it's spread out over 3 years. We have until September of '24
To spend it all.
to spend it all.
Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Balls, will you talk about the correspondence we received from the state board?
Oh,
with regard to
yes,
the
yes, thank
framework,
you.
The plan that we submitted?
Yes. We did get approval, so the plan that you approved last time was approved with no comments, no exceptions, and that's just a credit to the superintendent and the rest of the cabinet and the team here as well, that we did get approved there, just so you're aware. And that one is posted on the website as well, this ESSER 3 plan. Again, we divided this, as you remember, part of that plan was we sent out a survey, got feedback on what the priorities, what were some of the priorities from our community. And we broke this up into 8 different priorities as well. And so inside these priorities, we kind of tried to say, okay, what does that look like to support staff and retain staff and for curriculum and programs and so forth. Anyway, so you can, obviously you've had time, or if you have any questions, we can go through questions. I'll just highlight a few of those. Different things on how we could spend this money. I will mention more organizationally that again, next year, we're gonna show you an updated version of this. That this is not necessarily, we've spanned things out over the 3 years, but we're gonna look next year, okay, what were we able to spend, what weren't we able to spend, here's the total amount remaining, we have 2 years left, and we'll go from this. So this is a workable a flowing, working document.
So we can
If
change
you,
it.
we can definitely change it.
Good.
Absolutely.
As good as you are, as everyone is, there's something we missed. There's, it's glaring, and we have to do something about it, so we can move these numbers. And you
Absolutely.
can
Absolutely.
move these
Yes,
numbers.
this is an internal document, and so, did you want to talk about that first, or
No,
go
I
through
just
what?
wanted to Say it.
Okay,
I just wanted to say it, no?
okay,
Fine.
sounds good, thank you.
What you got?
And please, yeah, this is a working document, so any feedback there. I wanted to highlight number 3, and Superintendent Howell asked me to kind of focus on, our staff is going above and beyond with these type of things. And so we felt it important to kind of give some reimbursement for these extra duties. And so this actually, at this time, is our ask of the board to start thinking about this, and then probably final approval next week. Exactly. The whole allocation, but including in there would be some stipends, some extra duty stipends, in the amounts of $1,000 for classified, $2,000 for certified staff, and $2,500 for administrative staff. And so that makes up that 2.7, and that would be paid in November, if you do approve that.
For extra duties, what do you mean? You have, yeah,
So this is really patterned after last year. And so we know that in the classroom, our teachers are preparing work for those that are not able to attend school if they're on a quarantine with the flu or the illness, or if they actually have it. They're going above and beyond. They're doing some of the Google work in their classrooms as well. And so it's instructing those learners while they're home. Essentially, they're preparing, two sets of lessons
Or more.
in some cases, or more. And then when you add in the differentiated instruction, our administrators are working above and beyond. They are doing much of the same in guiding the work that's happening. Our paraprofessionals, we've called on them oftentimes to come in and add assistance when we're unable to get substitute teachers. We pay them a minimal amount for that difference, but this is a way to carry that over and throughout the year. I just think whether it's transportation, doing that extra cleaning on the bus, it's our maintenance folks who are, providing these ozone machines and getting them into classrooms late into the evening, coming in, the additional cleaning. We have put in some contracted janitorial services. We may see an increase in that contract. We're anticipating that, but we would also like to hire additional staff to pick up a little bit of that difference. You'll also see in regard to cleaning and sanitation. In fact, there's a machine here in the back. I'll let Mr. Balls highlight that one for you. But essentially, that's, again, pattern after what we did last year, knowing that everyone is doing much, much more beyond the contracted time that they're scheduled with us. And so
this goes to everyone, or are they identified by, are they singled out by when they do something, or is it just
no, it would
overall?
just be a flat rate.
Okay.
Last year, you may recall that with the classified, it was a $500 stipend. We were picking that up out of general fund because we didn't have the flexibility in the parameters that were given to us from the federal government to include in what we understood to include the classified staff. So that request came from general fund. This year, we feel very comfortable. There's a little catch-all number.
Number 20.
Number
Yep.
20, we just bluntly, endearingly call it number 20, and it is essentially to perform all of the operations of the school district. And so we felt comfortable increasing that and making that a little bit better for our classified staff too.
Okay, so you said classified was 1,000, certified 2,000, and administrative 2,500.
That is correct.
Okay. And then I do see you put in an incentive.
Hey,
here.
we were listening
I
last
did-
time we
I
talked.
did.
I'll let
Now,
Mr.
is that retroactive for those
Yes.
who did it, or?
Correct. Yes. Yes, it is.
So we will be able to track that by way of the clinics that we offered within the district, as well as proof from, a personal physician or another entity such as Southeast Idaho Public Health or Walgreens or wherever they may have received their vaccinations.
And that might give us maybe even a little better number, knowing those who did it privately or something, you
Sure,
know, if they want their incentive for COVID.
Exactly,
COVID incentive.
yes. So we appreciate that suggestion, Mrs. Craner. We did work it into this plan, yes.
So that's our goal, get everybody vaccinated.
So again, you can kind of read through here if there's any questions. Again, just trying to encourage, that, and support staff in that first section there. With insurance premiums to even increasing the personal leave reimbursement to encourage them to, to stay because we don't have very many substitutes, and finally that last one as well to encourage anybody to come and substitute when needed.
You know, I've been telling lots of people that they should go sub. No, because I have been hearing from teachers that, I know they're getting paid for their prep buyouts, but they're starting to feel that they still really need prep time to, and so I think they're getting a little weary, so I just thought, somebody asked me, the set of principal called them about subbing, and she said, well, I could probably do it maybe one day a week. And I said, you should do it. I said, one day is, and she's got a degree, but I just think it would, if people knew we'd take what we could get, if they would commit to one day, or I even thought about, is it possible to hire in a building a roving sub or something like that? Or
Well, we have all sorts of programs, incentives, publicity. I think Mrs. Fisher's done a wonderful job. If you see the Ask Jeeves signs around town, you'll see we're hiring transportation and bus drivers, the starting rate, great benefits, for those that have full-time routes. Same with substitute teachers. Come help us out. Come say hello in the morning or something. I don't know the catchphrase that we use. Mrs. Miner and the HR team has been so diligent in their efforts to recruit. In fact, I think the other day she had 12 folks in last week, and I asked her how that was going, and I think one had accepted a job the other day. In terms of the program that from the government, that the state government and Governor Little put some money toward that. And said that anyone that worked in the executive branch could have 2 days off per pay period, which is essentially a day a week, is my understanding. We have 3 of those that came on board. And so I think we're doing the best that we can. And then we did talk to principals about those folks that you see in your building, your parents. Just ask them, as Mrs. Craner pointed out. If you'd be interested, a day a week, we could sign you up for 1 day. Our school, certain classes. If math's uncomfortable, we can get you into English or band or choir or, so we can be even specific to the assignment. And so that's what we're hoping we can do even at a building level, is promote it just a little bit more.
that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yep. And so we did bump up the rate that we are paying our teachers, because they are giving up their prep hour to do their prep after work, because they're covering another class during the day. So we're recognizing those efforts as well on an individual basis, in addition to the other.
Yeah.
Did I cover that okay, Mrs. Miner?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to add, or Courtney.
You know, one of the things, just
Come on
go-
up.
So just brainstorming with substitutes, another thing that we did is that we lowered the age as far as for when they can go into the elementary school. And we had it at 21. And then, there's some really responsible 19-year-olds that are at ISU or wherever, right, working, and having them be able to go into our elementary schools. And my hope is once they get in there that they see what I saw when I was 18, right, and want to become a teacher. And so I'm hopeful that that'll help us out. And like I say, we just are having them be in the elementary component of that. And then just little things, a lot of times when a substitute walks into a building, it's the culture of a building. How do you make them feel when they walk into the building? Are they, welcomed and good morning and here's a water, here's a granola bar, here's, a couple things like that. So another thing we put in is where it says substitute lunches up there. Substitute teachers now, I made a little ticket and that they get that when they check in the morning and they get to go and have lunch, a school lunch, and then we'll turn that in for reimbursement through the food service. And it sounds kind of funny, but I had a gentleman who's a sub in our district come into my office the other day and was asking if there was any difference in pay or what that was looking like for substitutes that are already there. And I told him about the lunch and he's like, that's $4.50 a day. So he was excited that he had the ability to have lunch. And so just sometimes it's those little things. And so we're hopeful all of those things will make a difference in the end.
Okay.
And again, we can go as fast or as slow as with the questions as you'd like through here. But leaving that section into curriculum and programs, as you can see, different licenses, different programs to kind of that can help, particularly with learning loss. Again, if you remember 20%, and on this screen I have it's $3.8 million for learning loss, and we categorize number 2 and number 3, so the curriculum and programs as well as loss of instruction would qualify for this this learning loss requirement of 20% of these total dollars received. And so you can read through there some more FTEs, more certified teachers, some contracted services, some extra paraprofessional support there as well.
I had a question about some of the FTEs. I remember a time in the past when we said we didn't want to put permanent staff in places
Excellent, yeah.
where, we may not have funding next year.
Yep, and let me take one step back even from that question. As we talked about that as cabinet, is that the whole team realizes that, this is a lot of money, but we have to be able to support these going forward. So it's my understanding that we could add these additional teachers, and support them through these federal dollars for the first year, second year, maybe even third year, and then through attrition, keep them on staff. And so, again, trying to help, spending these dollars, but also decrease that loss of learning that some of our learners have experienced.
So it's a juggling act.
It is definitely juggling act. And so but that's a common theme, not only FTE, but through all this. Okay, we need to make sure we keep placeholders in the general fund, so we can support these programs that we want to going forward. Sorry.
No, I think you covered that well, Mr. Balls. And you're absolutely right, Mrs. Gephardt. And we always think about what this means for the future. Our turnover has not been substantially greater, but certainly it's more than what it was in the past. I think it's just the uncertainty of times. And so we feel comfortable in moving forward because every one of these positions, if it was a paraprofessional, we could, relocate them if we needed to, and we have, enough turnover that we can do that. An ELL teacher is sometimes like a unicorn, as well as, psychs, OTs, SLPs. We could hire, 5 of those tomorrow if we could. And so that's not to say that we will even be able to fill these positions, but we would certainly love to advertise them and add to our team here at the school district.
I know the other juggling piece we've looked at as long as I've been on the board has been making sure that the attrition matches what goes when we have students who go to other schools rather than in our district. So, which makes the FTE go strange.
It does. There's no doubt about it. And so we will keep an eye on that as we go. But again, we feel comfortable at this point in time with the recommendation. But it's certainly a great question from experience on the board. Thank you.
What's an ELL teacher?
English language learner.
Oh, English language.
So it's probably someone who came not speaking English.
We called it something different.
ESL,
I was there,
uh-huh.
so, yeah.
Yes,
so-
there was even another one too, ESL, ELL. Just EL, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have seen quite an increase. Mrs. Kinghorn, Gretchen Kinghorn, gave us some numbers on that a couple of weeks ago as we were putting this list together for you. And I think our numbers have grown from about, I want to say 40, about 3 times that. One. So, yeah, 150, 160 is what we're seeing as new language learners in our school districts and school district. And oftentimes they come with very little or no English.
Some of these acronyms, we had an acronym dictionary at one point, but they keep changing.
I still have it.
Yeah, well, I knew it as ESL. I'd never heard of ELL, so.
Okay. Again, please, great questions, keep asking them. Again, there was a little piece on mental health. We thought, well, we just put in some, an admin, some assistance for the CRWs, which that would be another acronym that I might not be able to say.
Community resource workers?
Thank you.
That one we
You.
know.
I didn't have those previously. A little bit of technology. I wanted to highlight this, kind of some refurbish our 3 auditoriums. And on my list, it definitely, it's the for all 3 high schools, some upgraded sound equipment and lighting.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And
We've
that's,
experienced that ourselves recently,
Yes.
so you know there's a need there.
and so, yes, I think that would help in, again, these ESSER funds, come about because of the COVID pandemic, and this would help us, again, maybe even use some of those social distancing, but then everybody could hear as well. So we tried to, look at some existing needs as well, and going forward. Excellent question. We think so.
The estimate that I got from, we brought a person that does this, sorry. There's another microphone, this one. So we brought a person out to the last auditorium we were at, trying to do something, and they had gone through all their equipment that we have there, and it was estimated about $20,000 for just the sound, and then lighting on top of that. So we may have overestimated it just a little bit, but we need to make sure that all 3 of our auditoriums are usable whenever large group or small groups need to use them. So, and we have a lot of communities that use our auditoriums, so it would be nice if the equipment there worked. And our newest one is 20 years old, and the technology is outdated, and several of the pieces do not work, and so we just need to work on replacing some of
So
those.
how's Hopi's auditorium? Is it newer? I mean, how new is it?
The magic.
Now you can hear me.
My gut is that all 3 of them will need a sound overhaul and some lighting work, so.
One question I would have, I don't know what to call what seemed to have blown out the last time, but my wonder is, do we have people who can help with that technology when outside groups come in to use it?
So we can train people in the school to use the technology. Part of the problem is we've had too many fingers in technology. And so we need to train, and then we need to be able to lock it up so that it's not available to play with. I know that when they rent Pocatello High School's auditorium, they have a teacher there that's trained to use that sound system, and part of the rental fee is paying his time to come in and run it.
Okay.
So
I know that's the case up at ISU, but I didn't know what was happening in the schools.
But even for our own presentations, our own drama presentations, our sound and our lighting is very outdated.
Okay. Again, going through a little bit more technology, some software. Again, we feel we could pay for the new website because it will be focused on with communication, obviously being, and so that's where we had kind of said that we could at least, pay for that for a few years. Number 6, again, operational continuity. Again, this is the operational funds, the discretionary funds, as the state calls them. Again, we were cut last year. We used some of ESSER 2 money to offset last year's state decrease. Again, we kind of just put a placeholder here just in case. That'll be kind of springtime after the legislature adjourns. We know what our operational funding will be in budgets, of course, through all that.
Some of that seems ludicrous. We know that the state has more money in the budget right now.
Correct.
And they make cuts like this?
Correct.
It's not,
Correct. And again, we know they cut last year. We'll see what they do this coming year.
Cutting back on taxes, giving everybody a rebate. Did you,
no, only rich people.
did you get that letter about rebates?
Okay, and the last one, again, we call it the COVID-19 mitigation strategies, but I kind of wanted to put out there that there's some things in here I think that everybody would encourage. One is that second line item, playground equipment. That $200,000 spread out for over 3 years would be essentially every elementary building would get some extra playground equipment. So then that way, when the kids are going out, that they'll have even more equipment to play.
More
So-
distance.
More distance, exactly. And so even though it's a mitigation strategy, but what parent wouldn't want more playground equipment? And then we also put in there, and this goes into kind of the bigger SIP projects, looking at some more bleachers, again, for these outdoor. Oh, forgive me, yeah. Yeah, thank you, I forgot about that. Again, we called it outdoor activity facilities and or alternative locations, essentially the bleachers, so that our patrons could, spread out if they would like to. So we kind of put that in there as well. That second to last item, and that's where Superintendent Howell mentioned this little machine in the back. We actually have on loan. Well, actually, it was not loan. It was given to us as a demo, as an air scrubber. Right there, that sound is at 38. You can crank it up to 100 and move a lot of air through there. The great thing about those is that it has a huge HEPA filter in there that literally is again catching all the things in the air for us. We thought cafeterias, gymnasiums. Even during a game, you stick one of these on both ends, and it turned up on a high would cover the square footage of a gym. But with that noisy gym, you wouldn't notice the noise, and so that was just again another mitigation tool that that we used to kind of scrub the air a little bit. And then additional custodial staff to help cleaning, again, if we can find those people. And then lastly was just some developmental preschool classroom renovations that we could, take 10,000 out for that.
Not preschool.
Thank you.
It's not preschool, it's for the middle school
Okay, thank you.
Developmental learning.
Developmental learning
program.
program, not preschool, thank you.
Um,
One of those.
You're talking about air scrubbers, and now I'm getting confused about why we need an air scrubber if what I used to hear was that we had lots of air circulation going on. So what all do we need?
Excellent question. So we initially looked at, okay, could we put these in the classroom? but I don't know if you can hear that.
Big.
Exactly. Little too big, little too noisy. And so this would be something in the commons areas. And so the classrooms, do get that circulated. This again would just be a little bit more kind of the cherry on top, if you will.
It's more of a purification system.
Sure.
I mean,
Good word.
It's not necessarily, is it like hospital grade? Not to that extent. But, so we have
No.
that exchange of air for sure. But in an area that has quite a number of people in it, in a smaller space, if you will, I'm thinking of Century High School Gymnasium or Highland High School, even the large gym, when you put quite a number of people in there, this would just add another layer of that air filtration system to it. I can tell you, and you all know Brian Glenn very well, he's come and presented many times to you. In fact, I think he's on for next month, maybe? Maybe January. Anyway, he is all about HVAC systems, and he's the one that led us toward the control systems, automation that we have now. He is sold on these things, and he and Alan looked into it, and 2 of these will cover that entire gym full of people. And so, again, it's just another layer, essentially.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And then in your examples, again, I would throw in the elementary cafeterias as well. That again, that's kind of, we try our best to spread out there, but again, that's a place that even though the air does get turned over, again, this could maybe catch a sneeze, catch a cough, even for regular flu-like
In fact,
symptoms.
in this demo that we're just looking at it, he's doing some measurements of the particulates in the air and what it was like pre, middle, post, and so that's going to help us make a determination on whether we proceed with the purchase or not.
So that's the kind of the end of the spreadsheet.
Okay,
That we had.
board want to make any changes? Additions, subtractions?
And you've got a week to think
We got
about it?
one week
Correct.
to think about it.
Correct.
Make a decision next week, so
Yeah.
move forward. But I like we can change it after the fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even midstream, I mean, this is our document. The state does not know these numbers at all. Is it?
Right, we don't have to submit anything else to the state, just that framework piece
Yes.
that we sent in a week or 2 ago.
Yep.
And then other than that, it becomes a working document, and as Mr. Manson pointed out earlier, 3 years to spend it, and so it's a budget. Sometimes you have unexpected costs, sometimes you want to be flexible and move some things around. Like I said, we're just demoing this machine, and if it does what we think it will do, we'd like to proceed with the purchase. If it's not our thing, then we'll move that money elsewhere.
Yeah, perfect. Good thought. Okay, next is school board operating principles. We're going to talk about that next. Okay, and the strategic goals and our code of ethics for all school board members. And we look at this once a year. And has everyone looked at it again? Any additions, subtractions you want? We do that every year also.
We have done this before,
Mm-hmm.
so are there changes? It says draft on it, but have there been changes?
Only draft because right now we're in work session. If you guys are good with it as is, then we'll put it in the packet for adoption next week. And it will be the final version for this year, but there are no proposed changes from administration right now, so it would just be up to you to decide if you want to keep it as is.
I think I've been fine with it for quite a number of years. I
Yes.
think
Mm.
I think it's good.
it's fine with me.
In fact, we're proud of it. We used to have it on the wall, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. So any changes? Janie, you okay?
I'm fine, if there were changes, I wanted to figure out how they were different from what was before.
Hmm.
But I didn't have the old ones memorized.
And again, as you look at that over the next week, if something catches your
Thumbs
eye,
up. We can bring it up next.
Yes.
Yep.
Board meeting,
Yep.
if something.
Okay, the next item is for the 2022 ISBA proposed resolutions. You gonna lead us in this, Doug?
Oh, I can, if you'd like me to.
Well, I know somebody should.
Okay, all right. So, you'll notice not quite as many. I think ISBA is just narrowing in, getting focused. Sometimes we've had upwards of 14 or 15
Mhm.
resolutions.
Well, and when I attended the Region 5 meeting, they talked about that. 4 has been taken off. I know they were trying to get somebody to put it back on, but part of what they said was they didn't get as many responses this year from school districts. People were otherwise occupied was the,
So, first up is the resolution regarding career ladder placement for out-of-state teachers and administrators. And I think Mrs. Minor could attest to how difficult this process has been. I think she looks at 3 different documents before she can make placement. But oftentimes, they will end up on the residency one or a professional one. And so this is asking for credit for teachers, and I really feel like this is a place too where we can be even more proactive. The board has been very proactive in the past in regard to looking at experience for other ancillary positions as well. So perhaps this could morph into that a little bit, that discussion about school nurses, school psychs, and those folks that bring that outside experience with them, in addition to teachers. So I hope that they could look at that as well. But it does carry a due pass recommendation submitted by quite a number of districts, and looks like mostly smaller ones that probably may have some difficulties in hiring when they have to stay at those bottom rungs instead of giving people credit.
well, and the other thing that was noted at the Region 5 meeting was many of these districts are the ones on borders. So that's where a lot of people have come in from other places, and therefore it's more important.
Good point. Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Gifford.
Well, on hiring and retaining really good teachers, and they're not gonna wanna come and stay, or work in an area where they get half of what they were getting.
Right,
So,
and start at the bottom,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, yeah,
Right.
you just don't want to start over again.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. This next one also hits a little bit close to home in Resolution 2 on licensed counselors. And so this is just asking that any licensed counselor be allowed to obtain certification. And Mrs. Minor ran into this working with the State Department and ISU, and they were essentially saying that they didn't have what it took to receive the people personnel certificate. But we argue, no, they're a counselor. In fact, they're in your counseling program through the education department or have completed. And so this would, and certainly in the times we live in now, we need counselors more than ever. And so do pass recommendation on this one as well.
well, and that seems funny to me that they would do that with counselors when they let people from other professions come in with no educational training lots of times and teach
Yes.
in a classroom, and yet, and they don't have this, what did you call it,
People personnel.
people
Yeah.
personnel thing.
In CTE world, we call it occupational specialist.
Yeah, so I
Uh-huh.
just.
And they
is-
do get credit. You're right, Mrs. Craner.
So that's kind of a, I don't know, what's the word, oxymoron or,
Yeah.
but,
Bit of a
Inequality.
contradiction, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next up is 3. This is aligning Idaho school age and public school accountability requirements. And currently it's 16 years old and for education, but 18 pretty much for everything else. So when they say align that, make it all 18.
I think the other place where I think this has come up is talking with Judge Murray about when 16 is the rule, but then you have problems past 16. He has a hard time, and so he would really like to see this aligned.
Oh, good. Yeah, and there is the caveat here that unless the pupil graduates early or receives their GED. So otherwise, yeah, we can follow them all the way through. And I know Judge Murray in the attendance court, he and the folks that work with him in our schools, yeah, once you hit 16, it's pretty hard.
It's hard
You
to-
can't do anything, essentially, by way of the law.
And
So
it's been hard enough as it is from what I heard this morning.
So do pass recommendation on that one. Skipping 4, we go to 5, and this is just support for the content standards. Mentions all the work that's been done over the years and ask that the legislature take that into consideration. The school board's work to say, you know, this, we're done with integrity and will be implemented with fidelity. And a do pass recommendation on that. 6, K-12 funding formula. You know, we've been wrestling and talking about this for 4 years or more.
Well, I had that 3-year study,
Right.
and they
7
never
years
did
ago.
anything with that.
Yes.
I mean,
So, and then in the COVID era, of course, we moved to membership, membership rather than an enrollment, rather than attendance. And so in a superintendent meeting yesterday, Region 5, Andy Grover from IASA told us that their state board will be taking that discussion up again at the end of the month and then passing on a recommendation to the legislature to go back to membership for enrollment again for this year.
Which only makes sense. You have to hire based on membership.
Yes, right. Units, absolutely. You're right, Mrs. Gilroy. So again, another due pass from ISBA. On number 7, this is storage of transcripts. Essentially, they're keeping them on file at the State Department of Ed. We keep them on file here, so it's saying, why not just keep them on with the resident district rather than the state try to keep track of all this.
The other point that got brought up at Region 5, at least of what I thought I heard, was how long do you have to do that? And so if they keep having to hold on to them, they're going to need huge vaults.
Right, and we know that they're not as efficient at getting the certificates mailed out. Oftentimes it takes up to 10 weeks when you do your renewal. And so perhaps this would cut down on some of their work and they can get
Maybe.
the certificates out faster. So number 7, a do pass recommendation. Number 8, discussion of sale. And I'd say it's a discussion. Any decisions and subsequent discussion would happen in an open meeting, but just those preliminary discussions about the sale of public property could be included in an executive session. And I think
We've tried for
We've
that
talked about
for a
that.
long time.
yes,
Yeah.
we have, yeah. So do pass on that. Streamlining consistent ISBA legislative priorities. You know that after 2 years, then those previous resolutions drop off. It looks to me, as I've read through this, Mrs. Gephardt, maybe you could add to it, that they'll continue to pull those forward in just a single resolution? Is that what I?
That wasn't totally clear to me, but they said that they did want something consistent there because it wasn't always, they didn't always pull them forward beyond 2 years.
Yes, okay. And that's what I gleaned from that as well. And that also comes with a do
Yeah.
pass recommendation.
Okay,
Okay,
good. Any questions? Moving forward, it's now time for public and written comment, and no written comment has been received and no request for public comments, so we'll move forward. I will now adjourn the work session and would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of real property and personnel matters. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the Board of Trustees proceed into executive session to discuss matters as allowed by Idaho Code 74-206, insert